Calendar for the day. The clerk will report the first bill on the calendar for the day.
Senate File number 229, number 1 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to gambling.
I recognize the author, Representative Sanders, who will explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Members, I'm proud to bring this bill before you today. This is the charitable gaming bill. It does two really important things. First of all, it provides a lot of support and flexibility to our the allied charities and charitable gaming industry. The folks that are hurting out there, and the people that they benefit the most are all of our youth hockey associations, our volunteer firefighters, the legions, all of those things. Every single one of us has multiple instances in our districts where we have folks and groups and organizations and value members of our community that depend on and rely on the proceeds that come off of charitable gaming. So I'm proud that this bill does a lot to provide some support and flexibility for them. The second piece of this bill that's received a lot of attention is a part where we are instructing the lottery that they need to suspend their contracts dealing with online gaming and prohibiting them from continuing to operate their ATMs and play at the pump locations until they receive express authorization from the legislature. Last session, you'll recall, if you were here, members, that a bill very, very similar to this went off the House floor with an overwhelming amount of support. Similarly, in the Senate, very, very strong support, because we knew that the importance of the legislature authorizing gaming initiatives or gaming activities moving forward is something that expressly comes through the power of the legislature. At the heart of the issue, the question is this: who makes the laws in this state? The regulatory agencies or the legislature? Members, every piece of gaming expansion or gaming activity has come through the legislature, may it be big or small, whether it be the constitutional amendment that even said that the legislature would authorize and set up the state lottery, down through everything in 349A. The legislature is the determinant. We, as the House and the Senate, determine which direction gaming goes in this state. I wish that we didn't have to have this portion today. I want to thank Chair Davids for his work and his help on this bill, and for the language that he has carried in addition to this bill. But I wish we didn't have to have the portion of this bill today where we were suspending those contracts. I wish that the lottery on their own would have said, okay, we hear the legislature. We hear that when over 100 legislators almost unanimously say, hey, you guys should stop, that they should have voluntarily said, okay, we're going to suspend these contracts on our own, and we're going to come to the legislature. We're going to ask you for permission and authority to do that. But that didn't happen. So unfortunately, we're back here today to stand up for separation of powers, to stand up for the Minnesota House of Representatives, which I'm very proud to do, to say that we are the ones that make the laws in this state. But members, overall, again, I want to just express the support that I have and the pride that I have for carrying this bill for the charities. And I've got two little boys that play hockey in the Youth Hockey Association up in Spring Lake Park, and I'll tell you, it's such a big deal for these local associations, legions, our volunteer firefighters that depend on these proceeds. So members, I ask for a big green vote today. Thank you.
Representative Smith offers the following amendment.
Smith moves to amend Senate File number 229, the third engrossment, and the amendment is coded A10.
I call upon the author of the amendment from Hennepin, Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I, too, want to thank Representative Sanders for bringing forth a good bill. And I agree with the idea that it would have been ideal if the lottery did not put us in this position. My path for resolving this situation is a little bit different than Representative Sanders. And this amendment, members, allows the contracts to continue until their natural term. And then at that point, this part of the lottery program would cease to exist. I think this is the best way to deal with this issue. It creates it mitigates the opportunity for any damage, any unnecessary expense for the state, while it still accomplishes the same goal of bringing the lottery in line with legislative overview. Thank you.
Discussion to the amendment. Member from Anoka, Representative Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Smith, I know that this has been your thought process, your position that you've had from the very beginning, so I respect that. But members, I'm going to ask for a no vote on this amendment. And there's a couple reasons why. But the big one for me is we have the lottery, regulating agency, that says, okay, we get it, we hear you. And on the back of this amendment here, it says, okay, you know what? We do need to come to you for authority to do online lottery games. To expand our games, we need to come to you. We get that. We agree to that. But just please, let us keep doing what we're doing until we're done. That doesn't make any sense. I know that if my kids came to me and said, hey, Dad, I know that I'm breaking the rules, but just let me keep doing this for another 2.5 years, and then I promise I'll stop, and I'll get your authority to do whatever it is I'm supposed to do in the future. Or maybe try it next time you get pulled over. Tell the cop, say, hey, you know what? I know I was going 70 and a 55, but how about this? For the next 2 years, I'll continue to drive 70, but I promise at that time, unless the speed limit's increased to 70 miles an hour, I will drive the speed limit from then on. Members, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to break the law and for this chamber to stand up and say, it's okay for the lottery to continue to break the law for 2.5 years. It's just not okay. This is the Minnesota House of Representatives. We are the ones that determine through law, through the bills that we pass off this floor in conjunction with the Senate, what is law. The regulatory agency doesn't get to do that. And so for that, members, I would ask for a no vote.
Member from Dakota, Representative Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the chief author, Representative Sanders, yield for a question?
He will. Representative Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Sanders, as I understand it, when the first steps were taken into the world of online gaming, play at the pump, even ATM discussions, it was actually back when Governor Pawlenty was still in office. And the encouragement from both sides to the lottery was to be very entrepreneurial. In fact, we often use that term whenever the lottery folks would come. We'd applaud their entrepreneurial spirit, that they would operate as almost a private venture and seek to get into areas where there might be potential revenues to be had. And so I don't know that characterizing what they're doing as breaking the law and so forth is actually very accurate, unless it is based on us encouraging them to do that. But my question for you is really, and you may recollect, by the way, I carried this bill last session that passed overwhelmingly, that got vetoed. So it's not that I'm not mindful of what we're talking about here. But between Representative Smith's amendment and your bill, my question is, what do you anticipate the damages will be? This isn't a loaded question. It's just we had this discussion in caucus. A number of folks have asked me the very same question a number of times in a number of ways. I am, like Representative Smith and others, concerned about what the potential damages will be from breaching the state's contracts with these vendors. Do you have an estimate based on your study of the contracts in question?
Member from Anoka, Representative Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And getting directly to your question first, there is no way to know what the damages could be because we don't know if there would be damages. The fiscal note says, in an assumption, that the vendors have told us that we may sue. Well, if that happens, the fiscal note says it could be about $12 million. Now, I would submit that, there is a time frame in here where the lottery can come back to the legislature and get approval to do their online gaming, at which point there would be no damages at all. And that's kind of the point here. And I do think that if you read through 349A, and I don't know, exactly how much the legislature was proactively encouraging the lottery to be entrepreneurial or act as a private venture. I don't know how you do that in conflict with 349A. But I will say that I do know there was bipartisan concern all along on what the lottery is doing. And from the very memo that they handed out, and we saw in Commerce, dated back in 2012, not only did they say that they could do ATMs and play at the pumps, but they thought they had express authority to do slots, jack black, poker, roulette, craps, all this online. So it's because of that we have to take this step now. And I wish there weren't the possibility of damages, but you know what? The lottery, I think, entered into these contracts without authority from the legislature, and unfortunately, the lottery has put us in this position.
Members, if you could, take your conversations to the alcoves or the retiring room. The noise in the chamber has become quite loud. Member from Dakota, Representative Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Representative Sanders, thank you. I actually, not to correct you, but I think you and I were literally sitting at the same committee table the last several sessions when we would applaud the lottery's entrepreneurial spirit and their aims at moving their revenues and continuing to set records for revenues. The point that I would make has less to do with lawsuits. And Representative Smith, I respect your amendment. I'm going to vote for your amendment because I'm concerned about the damages. But what I'm really concerned about is where I came from, just a humble kid from Inver Grove, is that when you give somebody your word and you shake their hand, you stick by that. I carried the bill last year. I'm like you, Representative Sanders, and so many others. I don't like where the lottery is now. I don't like where they're at in the world of online gaming. And the play at the pump and the ATM, and that's why I voted for the bill. But I do believe that when you shake somebody's hand and you tell them we've come to an agreement, that you honor that agreement. And that's what the lottery did. Representative Sanders, whether that was your kids playing hockey or somebody speeding or whatever your analogy was, I don't think we encouraged them to break the law, but we definitely encouraged them to be entrepreneurial and to enter into these sort of agreements. And we ought to honor those agreements, at least for the time that they are in effect, whether they're going to sue us or not, because that's what you do. So I'm going to vote for the amendment. Whether the amendment passes or not, Representative Sanders, I appreciate the bill. I support the bill. I authored the bill last year, and I expect it'll become law this year. Thank you.
Member from Hennepin, Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do think that the lottery has become, in their entrepreneurial spirit, perhaps a little overzealous. We know from a document dated back when Governor Pawlenty was in the governor's mansion from April of 2010 that they were exploring new ideas. We might have issue about whether those new ideas that they were exploring were good or not. That is a different issue for today. I ask this body to vote green on this amendment. Let's have these contracts expire without any potential damage to the state, and then let's put forth an earnest effort to work with the lottery to have them abide by the rules or the spirit of the agreement. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. There are no further amendments at the desk. The clerk will give a bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File Number 229.
Third reading. Discussion on the bill. Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 122 ayes and 6 nays, the motion prevails and the bill is passed and its title agreed to.